It is the most hypocritical thing I have ever heard for you to go out there as a coach or an analyst and say, like, oh, this person's going to be bad for a team when you have single-handedly fostered negative, harmful, like, personalities on your winning roster.
Friends, family, welcome back to the Shadow League Locker Room, where we dive deep into the latest sports stories and cultural moments. Today, we're joined by former NFL defensive end Stephen Weatherly to discuss recent NFL developments, NBA narratives, and, of course, so much more. Stephen, great to have you back, champ. How you feeling?
Good. Glad to be back.
Absolutely.
A lot of movement since the last time we talked.
A lot of movement, man. Let's jump into it, man. So they've been going hard at Shedeur, bro, online. Okay. The draft perception, a lot of people are suggesting that his stock has dropped. Some saying that some teams within the top 7 draft picks have labeled Shedeur as brash and arrogant. He's projected to go to the Giants at number 3 or Raiders at number 6. Now, some people are suggesting that these critiques might be attempts to undermine Deion Sanders by, of course, targeting his son's confidence. In your opinion, should a quarterback's confidence be viewed negatively by GMs? Also, the coach or coaches who reportedly made these suggestions. I mean, what do you think about them? Are they just hating?
Yeah, 1,000%. Speaking from my own personal experience in the league, when certain people have those kinds of personalities that these coaches are alluding to, they exist. And not only do they exist, they are perpetuated by these same coaches on their staffs because that person is helping them win. So it is the most hypocritical thing I have ever heard for you to go out there as a coach or an analyst and say, like, oh, this person's going to be bad for a team when you have single-handedly fostered negative, harmful, like, personalities on your winning roster. And so from my point of view, I don't like when anyone says that because you can look at any team and find actual problems. Now, when it comes to Shedeur and how he carries himself, with all due respect, my quarterback needs to be confident. Right. Out of all the people in the facility, I need at least 3 of them not to have any shake in their voice. And the quarterback's one of them. So if a lack of second guessing yourself or how they talk about things makes you feel uncomfortable, cool. But like, don't knock his ability to help you bring home some W's, which is what all this is about. So can he help you win or not is the number one question.
Well, I want to add this. Do you think that just being a young black man in this climate right now adds to it? Obviously, we know who his father was, but certainly with the political climate being what it is, do you feel like that's an added element?
Yeah, absolutely. When you start to talk about making the game less of a game and more of a business, it comes with all those added things. Like the last time we talked about it was the face of the NBA and Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
It's deeper than that. It's always more subtle nuances when it comes to this thing we call professional sports. And so to that point, some people don't want you to succeed or will put added pressure, or worse, will take what you're doing and hold it against a completely different standard just because of the way you look. The good news is that all the cards have been dealt at some degree, so you're aware of it. And him and his father, especially Deion, they got the golden rule book on how to navigate potential problems with a smile on your face, but at the end of the day, the stats to back it up. Because at no point was Deion ever considered arrogant because he had the stats to back it up. Now, just because his son has the confidence and yet doesn't have the stats yet, I would still give him a chance because like that apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah, he's proven that he's a winner, man. Let's jump into this 49ers, man. They've had some moves and they're looking to make an investment at quarterback. Brandon Ayuk is injured. Christian McCaffrey has a history of injuries. They've traded Deebo Samuel after a significant investment, and now they may need to offer quarterback Brock Purdy a $50 million contract. Now, 2 seasons ago, they were top contenders. They had an offense that everybody knew as well as a coaching staff. What do you think led to this shift, and is Brock worth $50 million?
I think what we're seeing now is kind of like a lack of depth at certain positions leading to the fall off in wins, which is tough because you have some amazing heavy hitters at some key positions, But as we're all starting to see, or as people more outside the sports are looking in and be like, well, why aren't they winning? It's more than just assembling the right people at the right position, one level deep. It's about making sure you have the right backup and contingencies for that. And so what we saw today was a little bit of lack of synergy on that from like the GM and building of the team. But each individual piece is great. Even Christian with his experience with injuries and the whole team really on offense and defense, and then you trading away a major piece like that. It's tough over there to get them back on track. They really need to bring it all together, and it's going to need to be the quarterback position. Now, to your question, is Brock Purdy worth that? I want to say yes, because when he had nothing to like going for him, when he first came in and in the position he came in at, he made the most of it.
Yeah.
And just because his name is now more well known, he's the face of it, and he's starting to see some struggles, I don't think he's not worth it anymore. You know what I'm saying? So I would give him a chance. And if I was a team, I would go for like a 3-year deal ish. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like a 2 improve it, draft a quarterback. Not this year, probably next year, when you think that the stock is a little bit better for you and where you're positioned. But other than that, I think you pay him for 2-3 years.
Well, Brock is up for a hell of a contract. I mean, I don't know if you would have thought that it was going to pan out like this when he came into the league, right? And with all
But I
the
love it.
conversation around, Shedeur, not to go back to that, but the comparisons. I mean, listen, shout out to Brock Purdy, man, doing his thing. What do you think about this Debo trade? You think that was a good move?
Absolutely. I think we talked about it at one point. You don't want a disgruntled worker in your midst. I think we were talking about KD moving, and people thought it was because of Draymond or something like that. Regardless what his actual reason is, he didn't want to go. Yeah. And so to that point, if a guy wants to leave, like Myles Garrett now, you got it. You got to, or else you have an angry person in your midst who's not going to help you win. So to that point, my man wanted out and he got out, and it looks like he landed in a pretty decent spot.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's talk about Deion Sanders, man. I saw him talking about discipline online. He got on one of his players for wearing Band-Aids over his earrings to bypass the team rule prohibiting earrings in uniform and at meetings. Now, Sanders saw it as a sign of defiance and a lack of discipline. What do you think about Coach Prime's approach to this particular problem?
As a new parent, I get it. And as a player, I was like, what's the deal if he's playing? But it's something that you won't really come into when you get to the league. But prior to that, it is not about your dress code. It's not about what earrings does. It's about, can you follow the rules set in front of you? Until you make it to the place where you can make your own rules, can you follow someone else's, be disciplined, and help another entity get to where they're trying to go while you're attached to them? And so like that's what he is trying to get all of these young men to do. He's not training a group of football players to go be football players for the rest of their lives, because who cares what you look like? You wear a helmet. Yeah. And so for him to trip over the fact that you're wearing earrings when you were explicitly told not to, and you understood the consequences, that no matter what field you're in,
right,
it's going to be true. And so that's what he's trying to get these young men to understand, that while you're working for someone else's dollar, you need to adhere to those rules. And that is the reality of life. If you don't like it, set your own rules, which is what he's all about.
Yeah.
But prove it to me on the field.
Yeah, that part. I think there's exceptions to everything. And I feel like, at some point we all have to adhere to protocol, right? And if you're not willing to adhere to protocol, you're not an asset. You're becoming more of a liability. And I think that if anybody has the autonomy to speak this way, I would imagine Deion Sanders, considering who and what he was as a younger player. But shout out to Coach Prime on that. Stephen, let's jump into the fair or foul segment, man, and get this in. You already know how we do it. I'll throw it at you, and you'll tell me if it's fair, as in justified, and if it's foul, you'll call that as well. Carmelo Anthony speaks on the media's obsession with the GOAT debates. All right, player comparisons and salaries, he says, are hurting the game. Do you think it's a fair point, or is it just part of today's sports culture?
I think it's a part of today's sports culture, and I think it should turn. I think the narrative should turn. So I think he is very fair in saying that the things you're using to judge who's great for what reasons, I think is skewed. But the idea that we will always talk about who is the best in this space, I think is the number one reason why people join the space. So we should be having GOAT debates, but what qualifies a GOAT, I think should be rewritten ASAP.
Okay, no doubt. And speaking of a GOAT debate, LeBron James just became the first player in NBA history to reach 50,000 combined points in the regular season and playoffs. Now, is it fair to say this solidifies his case as the GOAT, or foul to think that this record alone puts him above MJ and other legends?
The record alone, foul. And it'll never be that. Like someone scoring 52,000 points, no conference finals, no wins, no championships, all that stuff. I'm just gonna look at you like, what were you doing? Right? Like, this is not one-on-one. This isn't the one-on-one basketball league. Hopefully coming soon one day.
Right.
But until then, last time I checked, the 5 of y'all need to win a championship. And I'm so glad you were able to put the ball in the bucket more than anyone for your stint.
Yeah.
You were just a great scorer.
Right.
A GOAT? A GOAT wins everything. A GOAT brings everyone out. A GOAT, I think he had a horrible stretch of like 3-4 games without hitting a three.
Yeah.
A GOAT puts that on his shoulders and then walks out there and changes that narrative. So just the 50,000 points? Nah.
Yeah.
50,000 plus everything else? Oh, he's going to be up there for a minute until someone eclipses that.
Right. No doubt. Man, Steven, always a pleasure, brother. Tell them where they can find you, bro.
Yeah, no, I'm just on social media at Coach Weatherly. We're doing a little bit more in the community now here in Mableton at the local middle school with the Stephen Weatherly Foundation. And this April, you can actually find me up at Penn State. I'll be shadowing the Penn State football team, trying to add some tidbits to their edges and outside linebackers and try to help out Coach Franklin from when he was back at Vandy back at the day.
It is, man. That's big, man. And you know what? We'll have to talk to you about supporting you in the community, man. We got some things coming up. So thank you per usual, Steven.